Welcome back to episode 50 now in our Let's Play series of Space Engineer Survival. Today we're going to continue working on the inventory management script because that's what I feel like doing. In our last episode we got the display inventory stuff up and running, and as soon as my game wakes up we're going to start work today on the basic level of inventory sorting. So we're going to leave the assembler inputs alone. Eventually we'll want to actually check and see if the assemblers have anything queued up to be built, and if they don't, we'll pull the leftover ingots back out of them. But for the time being, I'm not going to worry about that. We're not going to do anything as far as putting ores into the refinery. We're going to leave the refinery inputs alone. Also, we're not going to try to pull anything back out of them, so once it goes in, it's going to stay in. But we are going to pull the outputs of both assemblers and refineries out and put them where they belong, as well as any other sorting in connected inventories. We're going to leave the inventories outside of the space industrial complex, everything connected through a connector. We're going to leave all that alone for the time being, because I think I want to run that off of a command specifically rather than running that by default. So we're going to add a new function here for sort inventory. And I think I actually want to run that first. I don't think it'll really make a difference, but I'm going to run it first. We are also going to have the flag here. Excuse me, because it's possible that at some point we will want this to work with connected inventory. Well, it's likely that we'll want this to work with connected inventories at some point, and basically pull things back off of it and put it where we want it to go. We're also going to, for the time being, leave reactors alone. At some point we will have something to make sure that the reactor fuel level is appropriate to where we want it, but that's going to come later because that's going to be a little bit more complicated to implement than just a basic sort. So we're just going to do the basic sort for now, and there was some formatting issues when I copied this over to GitHub, so let's see if we can resolve those. There's some weird hidden character in there that's making it come out all weird when I actually put it up on GitHub. So hopefully that'll resolve that. Anyway, so what we need to do is we are going to save off how do we want to do this? I think I'm going to want to extend this later, but I think for the time being, I'm just going to keep it simple. We're going to save off some IMI cargo containers for components. And I'm going to create separate variables, I think, for the time being. This one is actually going to be different, but for our current situation, we're actually going to save the same cargo container to a variable both for ingot container and ore container. And we'll also have one for ice that we'll keep separate. And then what we're going to do is create a bogus list again, because we're going to do the work in the filter function. And then, same as in display inventory so far, if it's not connected, and we care about such things, return false. If there's no inventory, return false. Now, this is going to get a little bit more complicated than the display function now, because the first thing we need to do is we need to check the block type block definition dot type dot to string dot. Can I do contains instead of index of? Because I'd rather do that. So if it's a reactor, we're not going to do anything. So we can go ahead and return false. And I think that, no, cannot be applied to a group. Does it have to be type ID? Or just block definition? Does that work? Yeah, that works. Okay. Operator not cannot be applied to group. Oh, because this is a function and I'm not actually calling it. There we go. Variable is not used. Alright, that's all fine. Excuse me. Okay, so the reactor we can bail on for the time being. Is there anything else that we want us to straight up bail on? Actually, you know what? I also want to have a list of the O2H2 generators so that we can move ice into those. But we only want to use the connected ones. Yeah. If we want to use other ones, we'll deal with that elsewhere. still fine. So we'll fill up the gas generators first, and then anything that's left over we'll put into the ice container. Be how that works. Alright, so reactor, we ignore. I think the gas generators we ignore too, because we don't want to pull anything out of those. So this is basically, we're going through looking for things that we're going to move stuff out of. And we're not going to move anything out of reactors for now anyway. Excuse me. We're not going to move anything out of gas generators for now anyway. Can't convert to a string. Alright, well, we'll just force you to then. Alright, so now this is going to list everything that we haven't dealt with yet. Large assembler, large refinery, large container, large assembler, oxygen generator. Okay, so it's not, the block type isn't actually gas generator, it's oxygen generator, so we gotta fix that. Connector, tank, connector, container. Alright, so we first need to do the oxygen generator. Oxygen tank. I think we want to ignore that one too. Because anything that we put in there, we're going to be storing there. Like any oxygen tanks that we actually put in there, I think I'm content to store there. So I don't want to move anything out of that. So we can skip the oxygen tank. Container, connector, assembler. And even if we're not going to move the ingots out, we are going to move the components out, so we need to deal with the large assembler. Refinery we need to deal with. So yeah, everything else that's on this list except for the oxygen tank we need to deal with. So we will deal with the oxygen tank by returning false. Alright. Next is where it gets even more complicated. If block dot block. Oh, this is going to be a little bit of a problem. So we need to have these set before we get in here. Because if we actually get in here and we're trying to move ingots out of the refinery into the ingot container, for example, but we haven't come across the ingot container yet, then we are not going to be able to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert something here, because this containers list we're not really that worried about. Like, we're not actually using this, we're using it as kind of a placeholder. So we are going to do grid terminal system dot get blocks of type containers block. Wake up. Now I want to configure these using custom data. So if block.custom data dot contains again, I'm just going to keep this relatively simple for now. I think I might want to expand this so it's more like a priority thing. Especially because our ore container is eventually going to also be used as an ice needs to be used as an ice container in addition to an ore container. I do need to deal with that. I need to deal with that now. Okay, never mind. Alright, how are we going to do this? Do I want this to be lists then? Yeah, I think I do. So these are going to be containers, and they're going to be prioritized. And since they're lists now, and we're making multiple calls to get blocks of type anyway, I'm going to call these with the right things. So this is going to be the component containers. So if block.customData contains component storage priority. So we'll basically put something in the custom data that says component storage priority, and then the one where it's supposed to go first will be component storage priority 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. And the idea is that if we run out of space, we'll echo out a warning, basically saying, hey, there's not enough room to store this, designate another container to hold it. That's how we'll do that. So if custom data contains component storage priority, return true, else return false. and we'll deal with the sorting in a minute. And actually now, because we're not using this anymore, we can put this back down here where it makes more sense. And I'm also going to move these up here. That still needs a line between it. Okay, so that's the component containers. And now we're basically just going to copy this. I think I actually have too many. I have 6, I only need 5. So the component containers, then the ammo containers, and that needs to stay ammo storage priority. And then the ingot containers needs to say ingot storage priority. And then the ore containers needs to say ore storage priority. And the ice containers need to say ice storage priority. Alright, so this guarantees that we have everything designated as a component container in the custom data in that list, ammo, ingots, or ice, respectively. Now, for the sorting. Okay, I think we can deal with the sorting down here when we're actually trying to move stuff. Excuse me. If block dot block definition dot to string contains refinery. So if this is a refinery, inventory output inventory equals block dot get inventory 1. And we know these are all ingots. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go for each my cargo container in ingot containers. With ingot containers dot order by I dot custom data This is going to get nasty, so I'm going to extract it into a function. Get priority of custom data. Closes order by, closes the for each. Okay, so the idea here is that if it's a refinery, we get the output inventory, and then we say for each container in the ingot containers ordered by however we're going to extract the priority of custom data. So we'll loop through these in priority order. Now, to get priority, we are going to return an int get priority. We're going to take a string that is the custom data. Now, the way we're going to do this is we need to string array of data items is custom data dot split on the new line character. This order by function down here work. Okay, there wasn't, at least not in this particular use of it, anything to determine which direction we were going. I don't think I want that anyway. Excuse me. Okay, anyway, we can handle that. Custom data split by new lines, so this is each line now in the custom data. And then we're going to say for each string data item in data items, if data item contains priority, storage priority, because I want this to be as specific as possible in case we're using this for something else. Contains storage priority, then return int dot parse data item dot split on an equal sign sub 1. Return int dot max value. So if there's no storage priority listed for some reason, like there shouldn't happen, because if it got put into this list in the first place, it's because it said whatever storage, it said ingot storage priority in particular here, but it said storage priority something to get put in this list in the first place. But if it's not here, it's going to put it to the end of the sort order. Uh-oh. Okay, I didn't close that parenthesis for the if condition. That is not all I screwed up, though. I didn't close this one either. 35. Did I screw something up here? Oh, I left this closing off of all these. I have a nasty tendency to do that, apparently. Did I get it? Not quite. No block definition. No block definition. That would be a problem. Block definition. There we go. Okay. So for each container in the ingot containers, ordered by the priority pulled from the custom data. Energy low. Because I am standing here in front of this instead of having a seat. Oh, the lag. I'm going to go ahead and fill up my hydrogen. And then we'll sit on the couch to work. Because that will fill up our energy and keep it full. Alright, back to the SIC controller. Edit. If it is a refinery, incidentally, we want to return true here when we're done. So that it doesn't come out here and we know we don't have to worry about it anymore because it's not appearing in the list. Okay, so for each one of those cargo containers, now we've got the output inventory of the refinery. So everything in here is an ingot. We know everything in here is an ingot. We don't have to worry about picking and choosing stuff. So we're just going to go ahead and say, my inventory destination equals container dot get inventory 0. These are all cargo containers. We know they're cargo containers because we're putting things into storage. So we can just get the 0 index inventory every time. We know that. And then we want to do list my inventory items equals output inventory dot get items. That's not how that works. Equals a new list of my inventory item. Output inventory dot get items. Whoa. Items into items. I think that's how that works. Double check down here because this is where we did it already. Yeah, that's where we did it already, and that's how it works. Excuse me. Okay, so we're getting a list of all the items in the output inventory, and then we are going to, for each my inventory item in items, output inventory dot transfer item 2. Destination inventory item. And now we need to break out of the loop if we're done. So we're going to say if output inventory dot current volume equals 0, return. Do I care? True, I guess. Because it's just something we did something with, so we'll have a record of all the blocks that we moved something out of. I don't know that that matters. Okay, so again, what we're doing, we're pulling the destination inventory, we're creating an empty list to store the items in of the refinery's output inventory. We're storing that list, and then for each item in that list, we're transferring items from the output inventory of the refinery to the destination inventory, which is the inventory of the container. Transfer the item. And this might be the wrong function setup. Nope, apparently it's not. Okay, so this should pull everything out of the refinery output and put it into the ingot storage as soon as we have an ingot storage, which we currently don't. So we're returning true here, but now outside of this, for each loop, but still inside of the if block, we want to say if output inventory dot current volume does not equal 0, echo insufficient ingot storage. And that should be what we actually see because we don't have any ingot storage configured yet. Insufficient ingot storage. So we got the assembler and we didn't deal with it. Then we got insufficient ingot storage. Insufficient ingot storage because we've got two refineries. So this is what we're getting instead of the refinery output. Why that's breaking up onto lines like that, I'm not entirely sure. But what we're going to do to deal with that is we are going to show our hidden blocks first of all, because we need to find the SIC large cargo containers. I don't remember which one is which. We want container 1. Edit the custom data, and we are going to do ingot storage priority equals 1. Now if we go back to the controller, we do not see that error. And if we go to the inventory, we see a whole bunch more uranium because it moved all the uranium out of the refinery into here. And it's going to continue moving it into here every 100 ticks as it refines. So the inventories of the refinery, the output inventories of the refineries are going to stay empty. See, they keep getting emptied out. And that's exactly what we want to happen. So the refinery output inventory is now being managed automatically. That's done. Next, excuse me again, wow. The next thing we want to do is we're going to basically copy this Is it safe to just copy this? Yeah, I think it's safe to just copy this. We're just going to copy this. And we're going to change this to say assembler. And we're going to change this to say component containers. Now for this one though, this is going to be a little bit more complicated because we don't want it to move ammo to the same place that it moves components. Although I think I'm going to deal with that later, because we're not producing any ammo at the moment, and I'm not entirely sure how I want to do that. Insufficient component storage. Alright, how do I want to deal with that? Because I might actually care if I'm trying to do this. I might need to get the items first. Yeah, this is going to be a little bit more of a pain in the butt, because I basically need to flip these loops, like basically turn it inside out a little bit. Like, this will work for the time being, but as soon as we start producing ammunition, it's going to be trying to stick it into component storage instead of ammo storage. I mean, we could just stick it into component storage temporarily and then move it out of... I'm not going to mess with it for the time being. Just going to double check and make sure it works. It's going to say insufficient component storage to start with. Why does it not break it up there, but it does break it up here? That's annoying to me. But anyway, it is the small cargo container 2 that we're using for component storage. So that's what it's got in it now. It should have all these metal grids get added to it after we set up the storage. Small cargo container 2, custom data, component storage priority 1. There we go. They're all in there. So that is working. And if we look at the assemblers, they are both empty, as they should be. They've still got the ingots in there because we haven't dealt with that yet. That's going to be a little bit more complicated, so we're not going to do that just yet. So we're still looking at connectors and containers. Now these are going to be more generic. We don't necessarily know what's going to be in here. I mean, we didn't really know it was going to be in the assembler either. So that was a thing. And the way we address the containers, not knowing at all what's in there necessarily, is going to be similar to the way that we address the assembler here. So I am going to go ahead and fix this so that it's working the way it's supposed to work. So output inventory, get items. So this needs to be moved out here. And this should probably be out here anyway. Because otherwise it's going to be doing it repeatedly. Although, I don't know. See, the reason why I'm not sure is because I think I might want to refresh items here. But no, I don't think I need to do that. We'll see. I'm going to go ahead and move it up here as well so that we're only doing it the once. And if it breaks something, we'll fix it later. So before this was inside the loop, and as it was going through each container, I mean, it's only being run once at this point because we've only got one ingot container and one component container. But if we had multiples, then it would be getting the inventory for the block for the refinery or for the assembler. It would be pulling that inventory and getting the items. Well, the inventory it's got, but it would be getting the items list each time it goes through here. And I don't think we need to do that. So I'm not going to do that. Now, this is fine the way it is. this is going to be a little funky. So for each item, transfer it out. Because we're doing that, I just think this looks cleaner. It's really a bad idea generally to do this because it means you have to add it back in if you change the code at all. But I just think it looks neater to keep it all on one line like that and get rid of the curly braces, so I'm going to do it. But we can't do that here, can we? Well, this requires more in-depth fixing, so I'm not going to mess with it. Yeah, we have to keep that in because we're messing with stuff a little bit more generally here. All right, so for each my inventory item in items list my cargo container destination containers if item dot type dot contains component destination containers equals component containers, else if item dot type dot contains ammo destination containers equals ammo containers. Alright, so what we're doing here is we're declaring a variable that we're going to sub in here. Instead of using component containers, we're going to use destination containers, and that's going to be set based on which item type we're looking at. If it's a component, the destination containers is going to be the component containers. If it's ammo, the destination containers is going to be the ammo containers. Then we're going to tab this out, tab this out. Whoa, that didn't work. Tab this out. Get rid of this loop. Close that out here. So this is now closing this loop. This is fine. But this is an issue here because, all right, let's walk through this from the beginning. If it's an assembler, get the output inventory, get the items in the output inventory. For each item, declare destination containers. If the item is a component, then the destination containers are the component containers. If it's ammo, it's the ammo containers. Then for each container in destination containers, sorted by priority order, get the inventory, transfer the item. So now the issue is that it's going to loop back here to the next one, and that's why we had this here to break out of the loop. But here we're not breaking out of the loop now, except for here, which doesn't make sense anymore. But the item is still going to be the same item as it loops through the container, so it's going to end up putting it in the last one instead of the first one, and that's a problem. So what we need to do because I'm not sure what happens to this my inventory item after it's been moved, if it was moved successfully in its entirety. In any case, these two things don't really make sense in this context anymore. Like, they made sense here, saying, you know, if we've managed to empty out the entire inventory of the entire refinery output inventory without going further into the in containers list, we can go ahead and bail. And say we're done. If we didn't empty it out after we've gone through all the containers, then there's not enough storage. But in this instance, does the amount update? Let's try that. If item.amount equals 0, break. So if the item amount reaches 0, which I'm guessing might happen if we manage to move all of the items, if this is successfully able to move everything that's remaining into the destination inventory, then amount will be 0, and it'll be tracked under a different inventory and a different my inventory item object. The amount will go down to 0. So we'll break out of this loop, and then we will be done with this loop here, and we'll move on to the next item. So that's what I'm guessing will happen. Although here we want to say if item.amount does not equal 0, echo insufficient. Is there a way to tell? I'm just going to say insufficient storage. Alright, here's what I'm going to do. Insufficient storage for, what was that method called? Format item type. Item.type. Okay, so if the amount is equal to 0, we can break out of this loop. We don't want to continue trying to move it. Although if the amount is 0, that won't do anything anyway. It's just saving cycles, which, okay, fine. So either this will work or it won't work. Either this will work or it was unnecessary to start with. If item amount is still not 0 by the time we're done looping through all the destination containers, though, then there wasn't sufficient storage for whatever the item type was. And we will have to then cope with that. So that'll loop through all the items, and then when it's done looping through all the items, it will return true. And we broke a bunch of stuff because I can't write code. Yeah, I didn't close my parentheses again. One of these days I'll remember to do that. It would be cool. My item type does not contain a definition for contains. Okay. That's because this needs to be to string. Unassigned local variable destination containers. Oh, because I might not be setting it to anything. Okay. So if it's not a component and it's not ammo and it shouldn't ever get here, then it will set it to an empty list. And it's fine with that. Okay. So it thinks it's got sufficient storage space for everything. It's only listing the items that we haven't dealt with. On the other hand, if I come down here and pull this ammo, and stick it back into an assembler, it'll stay there. And it's now going to say insufficient storage for ammo magazine / NATO. And that's actually a problem because it's cutting off what kind of ammo it is. So that requires a fix to this. Because there's another underscore there is what's going on. Okay, so how do we fix that? String array. Bits equals type dot to string split on the underscore if bits dot length equals 2, then do that, else return, no, we want to do bits 1 because we don't want to redo that work. Otherwise we want to return bits dot splice 1 dot join underscore. I don't know if this is right. It is not right. Splice is not a thing. Alright. Time to learn some C#. It would be splice in JavaScript. Getting a subarray from an existing array. That sounds like what I want to do. I don't want an extension method. That seems superfluous. I'm reading Stack Overflow now, sorry. Um, okay, so if we convert the array to a list, then that can do the range thing that I want it to do. That's one way. I feel like there should be a better one. I do not prefer that way. One of the ways I'm seeing is to write a whole separate method as an extension method to do that, and that seems silly. Yeah, it's the way they really want me to do it, and I'm not going to do that. Copy function? Copies a range of elements. Yeah, that's what we want. static array method, though. That seems a little bit superfluous. But alright, if that's what it needs to be. So yeah, sorry about that. I don't know C# as well as I know JavaScript. I've been over that before, in case you have forgotten. Oh, that's what we were doing, this one. Because the thing is, I want to drop the first bit of this, and then I want to join what's left of it together. Oh, come on, that's annoying. Do I need a whole new array? Actually, I am doing this the overly complicated way. Excuse me. Return. Type dot no string type string equals type dot to string return type string dot substring type string dot index of underscore. Okay, so instead of splitting it up, we're just going to take everything after the first underscore. That's the easy way. And I saved this off just so I didn't have to do the toString twice, because that would be silly. So now, if I look here, first of all, insufficient storage for the full name of what it is. Oh, I want to add one. All right, fine. Index of that plus one, because it's still keeping the underscore there, and we don't want the underscore. We want to get rid of the underscore. Insufficient storage for ammo magazine, NATO, blah, 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 blah. And if I edit text on this, now it actually has that there, and it didn't mess it up by putting the underscore at the beginning. So perfect, that's what we want. All right, so now that's doing that, and the reason that is doing that is because our ammo is in here. We don't have anything configured to hold it. And it's supposed to be small cargo container 1. So if we set small cargo container 1 to have an ammo storage priority equals 1, then that error cleared, and the ammo is now back where it belongs. Perfect. All right, so that's working now. And the way that we did that, this episode's running super long. Sorry about that. Deal with it. The way that we did that here with the assembler is the way that we're going to have to do it for the other containers we have, the connectors and the actual cargo containers, except the only difference is that instead of just these two here, we're going to have to deal with all the types. We're going to have to deal with components, ammo, ingots, ice, and ores. And it has to be in that order also, because if we catch ice, then any ore that isn't ice will then be the regular ores. But we need to catch ice first, because if we just do ore, then it's going to think that ice is just a regular ore and stick it in the ore container. We need it to catch ice first and stick it in the ice containers. If it's not ice, but it's still an ore, then it goes in the ore containers. So since this is such a long episode at this point, and since it is going to be pretty much exactly the same thing, except we're not going to need inventory 1, because all the inventories that we're going to be dealing with from here on out are going to be single inventory blocks. At least I think they are. Well, everything that we've got on here at the moment is. So I'm just going to make that assumption. I might do a loop. I don't know. I'll just make that assumption to start with. I'll do a loop if it comes to that later. Um, I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera. I'm going to cut the episode here. So subscribe to see what happens next. It'll at least be a quick overview display demonstration of, hey, look, this thing works and I didn't screw it up, in the next episode. But I'm not going to do another, hardcore scripting episode again for at least an episode or two. Probably do some work on the uranium thing unless I have enough time to finish the armor on the fighter. So thanks for watching. Subscribe to see that. Likes, comments, verbal abuse are welcome. See you next time. Bye.